Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Okay, Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Hare Krishna. We're on the road, people. We're in, where are we? Premier?
We're in Exeter.
In Exeter. Travelling around.
Ben just made a nice salad.
A car salad.
Yeah, you should. Anyway, we're gonna wait. You just wait for the Welsh Yogi cookbook.
Travelling cookbook.
Yeah. Then anyway, it'll be ready for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we're gonna carry on with Sri Upanishad, right?
Yeah. So I have absolutely no idea where we are.
We say this every time at the start of every podcast.
It's true.
I know where we are. I've got it
time,
highlighted on my Kindle.
Fair enough. Well, that's good for you. I haven't.
I'll read it. And you
I
can
usually
listen.
read from a book, you know. But
We are on.
are we on the first verse or the second verse?
We're on Mantra 1.
Mantra 1.
And the paragraph begins, one should therefore be intelligent enough. Okay.
I think.
So, we were reading about how one should accept something. There's a management principle in the world that, you should take just enough for yourself and not take what belongs to others. Okay?
Oh, yeah. We were
And
talking about... Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
Okay.
Now.
So here we are.
Maybe we
I'll
should
start
say
reading.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yeah, let's do that now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, here we go. This is Srila Prabhupada speaking, who's one of the spiritual masters of the world. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for Krishna, no one is a proprietor of anything. One should accept only those things that are set aside by Krishna as his quota. The cow, for instance, gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated as food for the human beings. Such is the arrangement of the Lord. Thus we should be satisfied with those things he has kindly set aside for us. And we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong. Take, for example, our dwelling, which is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other material things. If we think in terms of Sri Ishopanishad, we must know that we cannot produce any of these building materials ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them into different shapes by our labour. A labourer cannot claim to be a proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it.
That's pretty cool.
It's a slightly different point, but I was hearing the other day a lecture, and Srila Prabhupada was saying that because you can't eat. He said you can't eat nuts and bolts, and you can't eat rubber tires. So he was saying everything we manufacture in our factories, you can't eat. So we're completely reliant, because it goes back to this principle of this verse. Everything is arranged by higher arrangement, like grains and fruits. Like we, as human civilization, we can't manufacture these things. We're just taking resources that are already there, and if we want to create buildings, we're just reshaping them into something, and then they dissolve after time. And actually, to live, we rely on some higher arrangement.
It's really interesting because like a lot of people complain about in modern society, so many people are making money using these banking systems where they're just moving ones and zeros around, and that's how their money is becoming manifest, by moving these numbers around. But actually, even in factories, we're just moving this type of atom and this type of element and mixing it with that type of element and moving those elements around and producing these other combination of elements. But
reshifting.
Yeah, we're just moving things around in that sense too. So what really is the difference between those two things, Because like these ancient yoga texts, they talk about how, real society is built on like agriculture and farming, and it's not built on manufacturing, like I don't know, cars and rubber thing.
Yeah, you lose what's really of value.
Yeah.
My spiritual guru was saying once. He was speaking to an elderly person who lived in a village in Hungary, and they were remembering in the communist days when, at a certain time, or whether it was in World War II, I'm not quite sure, there was a certain time where food was very scarce. And she remembers someone knocking on her door and offering what equivalent today would be hundreds, if not thousands of pounds for a loaf of bread.
Wow.
And the woman said, "No, eat your money."
Whoa.
Because when it comes down to it, you can't eat paper.
Yeah.
You know, what is a real commodity and real product in this world? You know, we're just walking around with electronics and money, but it's all just like an actual. At the end of the day, and that's a huge difference now between today's civilization and the civilization of 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that I think before the Industrial Revolution, it used to be something like 90% of the population was. Your work was pretty much directly in relationship with the food that you'd eat, like in agriculture, like in that sort of. And now it's something like 2% of the world population is in relationship to actually what we eat, and the rest of it is just all superfluous things.
You can see that in the quality of the foods that we get. They're just sort of mass manufactured and. Like
it's not really a tomato. It's a bunch of chemicals painted to look like a tomato. Yeah. If you get an actual tomato, it looks...
Like these giant agricultural companies that, you know, there's a whole like...
It's crazy. Like, another thing is His Holiness Shiva Ram Swami, who's one of our spiritual teachers, my spiritual master. He was saying, like, because he runs a farm, an eco farm in Hungary. And he was saying he can get a nuclear physicist or someone with a university degree in engineering very easily, but what you can't get is someone who can work the land or look after the cows, because no one these days knows how to grow food. And another thing, my friends Boma Vrindavan, who has an allotment, and I think I've also heard this from that to get grains that you can plant to create a crop that can then. You can't get it so that it can reproduce more grains.
Yeah.
You have to go to the shop and buy more grains from the shop that produces a crop. Then the crop can't reproduce.
It's been like genetically engineered.
Genetically engineered to stop the population from growing our own food. You know, it's really...
it's kind of sinister if you break it down. Like, and it's like you said. Okay, so. Our money is not really based on anything. It's just paper or plastic or whatever. Like back in the day, in like these ancient times, money would be made of gold. Not even ancient times, a few hundred years ago, gold and silver, and that currency could be actually it's of value. It's like
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like video game money. It's just like Monopoly money basically. Yeah. And then you can just keep printing more and more and more and more.
Yeah, I mean.
That's what I mean. There's like so many. The society is warped in quite a few ways. You know?
Yeah. So you wanted to tell us about the book you were reading? You were reading that book.
Oh yeah, that kind of ties in like the video game theme. I've been reading this book called Maya, Our World as Virtual Reality. So like Maya, what does Maya mean? It's like kind of that which is not, right? It's like a Sanskrit term, and it kind of means illusion. That kind of thing. Would you say that?
Yeah, it can mean a couple of things, isn't it?
Yeah, so like they've got this whole concept of Maya or illusion, and this book it lays down. Sort of, it's by a scientist, Richard L. Thompson, who's a Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada is one of his followers, and his name is Sadhaputta, right?
Sadhaputta, yeah.
Sadhaputta.
Have you heard of Sadhaputta, Charlie?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he's like a really like advanced kind of physicist, but he also sort of practices and lives or practiced and lived this sort of Bhakti lifestyle simultaneously, right?
Yeah, I think he had a degree in mathematics, I think, or something.
Super genius.
Super intelligent person.
And anyway, he basically describes how this world is sort of illusory, but he does it on the basis of describing virtual reality. So there's like some really cool things that he was bringing out. So I've only read the first chapter, but he was talking about how, you know...
he's using the concept of virtual reality.
Yeah, to explain sort of...
And linking it to us being an illusion.
Yeah, he was explaining how...
Or the world being... Everyone being...
In a sense, what he was trying to lay down is where consciousness fits into this world.
Uh-huh.
So like he lays it down. He says one cool thing I thought he said was that artificial intelligence, which is like artificial intelligence is the inverse of virtual reality. So artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence is the inverse.
Yeah.
Of virtual reality.
So artificial intelligence is trying to put a machine mind into the real world, and where a virtual reality is trying to put a real mind into a virtual world.
Right there now. Say that again.
Probably lost you there.
Say that again.
So artificial intelligence,
Artificial intelligence.
which
right.
is like robots that think
Yeah.
for themselves.
like AI.
Yeah,
Will
AI
Smith.
is trying to put a machine mind
Yeah.
into this real world that we exist in now,
Yes.
which
Okay,
he calls
got that.
grounded reality.
Right.
And virtual reality is the inverse of that. So you put a real mind, like a human being's mind, into a virtual
Oh
environment.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So which I thought was quite a cool point.
Yeah. Yeah. You got that, Charlie?
Sort of, yeah.
So
Right.
virtual reality
Yeah.
is putting a real mind into a virtual world,
So like those
like
games.
World of Warcraft
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something, and then artificial
AI.
intelligence is putting a virtual robot mind into the
Yeah.
world that we tend to experience. Okay,
So that's
me and Charlie are with you now.
so yeah, it's quite a deep book. It's quite a like sort of a technical book, but
What's the book called?
Maya.
Just called Maya.
No, it's called Maya. This world is virtual reality or something like that.
Right.
It was given to me by Krishna Bhajandas,
Uh-huh.
he's a hero.
He's real nice.
Yeah, he's awesome. But so basically, he starts explaining this sort of virtual reality model and how you'd have to. This is it's,
Smoke's gonna start coming from his ears.
oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? Yeah,
I mean, you can tell us more about it if you read when you read a bit more if you want.
Yeah, I can do, but maybe that's the first point that we can lay down is this concept of virtual reality and being the inverse of. I was trying to think, like, put me on the spot now. It's alright, doing it. But so I guess the virtual.
Stay tuned for revelations.
Stay tuned for- It's like on when you've got a Mac computer and you've got the circle umbrella just spinning.
That's what's happening with
That's
you in
what's
a
happening
minute.
with me. My mind's like, oh no. But
Frozen.
I read it. It was mind blowing. I gotta tell you. Maybe you should read it yourself. I'm no scientist.
Yeah. Well, I really like Sadhiputta.
Yeah,
He's really
he explains stuff in like a revolutionary way. I guess what he was basically saying is you've got to, there's this scientific theory called brain in a vat theory.
brain in the vat.
Brain in a vat. So like what would happen if you took your brain and put it in like a vat of water, and then connected computer circuitry to it, so that the consciousness, which scientists propose is in the brain, is channeled into like a virtual environment,
Right.
like that. So like he like theoretically goes along with this theory, and he talks about how like he really like breaks down the model of how to do it, and he said you'd need like a. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get lost here. It's like it is too complicated. Like, maybe we'll knock that one on the head. What should we do? Shall I
I can carry on reading. Should you finish it?
we could carry on reading. Like,
The other one who said he wanted to talk about it.
I did want to talk about it, but it's easier
It
when,
is interesting. Like
when there's not all these people listening.
Sweet Charlie.
Me and Charlie.
Right. Okay. In modern society, there is always a great quarrel between the labourers and the capitalists. This quarrel
I'm so
has
stupid. I'm so stupid. I think I'm so smart when I'm reading these things. I'm just like, I'm gonna tell everyone. About this. I'm gonna be the
It's
biggest.
like that we had one episode where it was completely deleted because we were.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's okay. Like,
in modern society,
I'm a fool.
in modern society, there is always a great quarrel between the labourers and the capitalists, right?
Yeah.
It's like the communists and the capitalists, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
This quarrel has taken an international shape, and the world is in danger. Now, this was written in the late 1960s, if not early 1970s, right? But even now,
It's 1976.
Oh, is it?
No, that was net-driven destruction.
Because this was when
This was
we
pre that,
first
wasn't
went to London, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff?
Probably like something like the time.
So,
Probably a different time to that then.
right. Okay. So similarly now it's also, because back then you had, I guess, Russia and America, and now it's still Russia and America. If not now, it's China, China and America. So still it's like communists versus capitalists. Yeah. Nothing much changes. Men face one another in enmity and snarl, just like cats and dogs. Sri Ishopanishad cannot give advice to the cats and dogs, but it can deliver the message of Godhead to man through the bona fide acharya or holy teachers. The human race should take to the Vedic wisdom of Sri Ishopanishad and not quarrel over material possessions. Can you imagine saying this to the United Nations, reading this?
Yeah. It's kind of true though, like when we are fighting over these, because the material things are just like...
Just fighting over bits
of matter, bits of empty sort of... Like, if we do take it to like a video game virtual reality analogy, it's just like little entities on a screen, you know, like if this world was like temporary and illusory, hypothetically, it's just we the living beings are arguing over things that aren't really important anyway. It's
like my father likes playing this game,
Civilization. He was telling
Civilization.
Me. Yeah.
And he spends hours on it, and I do, you know, I love my dad. You know, he'll probably listen to this eventually, like. But it is, you know, spending time doing that virtually, and spending time, you know, and then big sort of leaders of countries do the same thing. But ultimately, what is it really for? Like, I you know, I don't know if this is controversial, probably not, but I personally don't really believe that the leaders of the countries have the best sort of intentions in regards to the population. You know, I, from my point of view, it seems that a lot of leaders, anyway, are more preoccupied with their own position, their own sort of security, you know, vying for position. Like I don't know if this is controversial, but it doesn't seem to me that any politician really wants to do what's best for the people. More than they want to...
On a mission for position.
And want adoration and respect and, you know. But, anyway, I don't want to get too political, but, you know.
No, but it's a fact. Like and essentially what Prabhupada's doing here is he's boiling that kind of mentality to the mentality
he said, like, cats and dogs.
It's animalistic. Snarl, like. Yeah, it's just... and, like, there's so much distress caused in the whole world on the basis of this sort of cat fighting. Like, this sort of... You know, vying to defend a temporary position.
Yeah. And on a deeper level, unless this is the point that is also being made, well, you got to know who everything actually belongs to. If you admit there's like a sort of superior arrangement, and if we stop claiming everything as ours, and agree, okay, this all belongs to, you know, Mother Earth and even higher than that, the supreme absolute truth, then we can just all, you know, while we're here, use these things to maintain our bodies as we focus on higher matters of self-realization. And when we eventually leave this world, we leave something left for our children and grandchildren to inherit. But, you know, now that our generation, the generation before us, and are just, you know, the future generations are going to inherit a very damaged planet, if they inherit a planet at all. You know. Should we carry on reading?
That's a soundbite, that is.
Yeah, that's a T-shirt. That's a bit of merch, that, isn't it? On the it's freak. You know what I mean? It is freaking sad, though. You know, like we as human beings, we don't really perceive a problem until it's right. The boot is right on our face. You know.
And even then, like...
Yeah.
Even when it's on our face, we still want to go back to, you know, like...
You know, the whole world ecological global crisis will really hit home when all of a sudden we can't eat anything, you know. Or, like, we'll be scrambling for food, or the...
And no one knows how to make any food anyway.
Exactly, that's it.
Yeah. Just get a farm going, boys.
I think that's another thing that Prabhupada wanted is that eventually we establish self-sufficient farms. So you actually people.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so human race should take. Okay. One must be satisfied. Do you want to carry on reading, Ben?
Yeah, one must be satisfied with whatever privileges are given to him by the mercy of Krishna. There can be no peace if the communists or capitalists or any other party claims proprietorship over the resources of nature, which are entirely the property of the Lord. The capitalists cannot curb the communists simply by political manoeuvring, nor can the communists defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for stolen bread. Wow. If they do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the property they claim to be their own is stolen. Consequently, they'll be liable to the punishment by the laws of nature. Nuclear bombs are in the hands of both communists and capitalists, and if both do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is certain that these bombs will ultimately ruin both parties. Thus, in order to save themselves and bring peace to the world, both parties must follow the instructions of Sri Ishopanishad. So I guess
Nuclear weapon. What's there's like the big, was it the big three or something of threats to the world at the minute? Or one is the global condition. The
like
other
natural,
is the
natural global condition.
like
global
the,
warming.
Yeah, the sort of ecological crisis.
Yeah.
Like even the amount of plastic that's in the seas and stuff.
Continent of plastic or something, isn't it?
Yeah, whole continents of plastic miles long in the. And also the world is overburdened with nuclear weapons. You know, the nuclear weapons that was released in is it Hiroshima? Is that how you pronounce it?
Oh yeah, Hiroshima.
Hiroshima. That.
What about Fukushima?
Fukushima.
That's the plant recently, isn't it? The one that leaked.
Yeah,
like
but I'm on
2000.
about the nuclear bomb that went off.
Okay,
you know?
yeah. Oh, I know Hiroshima. Yeah.
Yeah, that I was heard that's like kids stuff.
Yeah.
Compared to the nuclear weapons that they have today, you know. The Americans spent trillions, like $32 trillion or something insane on their nuclear
Yeah, it's terrifying.
ammunition, you know. And they got and do you know what? I think the third biggest nuclear power in the world is Pakistan.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, India and Pakistan. You know, there's just all these like countries are probably only one. You know, they're just one button push away
Yeah.
from just.
That stuff freaks me out. I used to freak out when I was a kid just thinking about that. I remember I watched a documentary about there were these soldiers that were there for the nuclear tests, and they were like testing the effects on these soldiers, and like they all faced the nuclear bomb as it went off and put their hands up in front of their faces. And the bomb went out, and they all gave their account of what happened.
Right.
And they said like suddenly there was this big flash, and I could see my skeleton, my hands before my eyes.
Really, you see stuff like that on cartoons and that.
Yeah, but they could see there was like X-ray vision through their.
Right.
Like it's so scary, and all of these people they died of cancer like at the age of 60 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
There was like none of them left, and they like their whole ship full of people. It's like so scary, like the power of these. Can you imagine that? Just like suddenly see a skeleton.
Yeah.
Like just look down and you can see a skeleton.
What was the name of you quoted the Bhagavad Gita when the bomb went off?
Oh yeah, it's a type. Taimayam and just.
Yeah, you quoted Krishna saying.
What was his name?
Time I am, death I am.
Yeah, it's proper.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these things are like aspects of Krishna, especially chapter 13 of the. It's like the Universal Four.
I watched a documentary on what to do when there's a nuclear bomb.
Alright.
So apparently, it says I watched this years ago. So fill the bath. If you hear that, like there's some, something go. I mean, I don't want to get sued for this in case this is someone tries this and something goes terribly wrong. But so you hear there's a nuclear bomb go off, it's through the radio or something. So you've got a certain amount of time before the water turns toxic.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I can't remember how long it is. So that's probably not very good.
So you've got to fill the bath. So you've got to stop.
Yeah, turn the tap. start filling that bath.
Okay.
So you got water to drink,
Yeah.
but you only got a certain amount of time before it turns toxic. I can't remember how much that is. So
Certain amount.
yeah. Then they said put your bed upside down and hide under your bed. So I don't know what that would do, but you know what I mean. But this was like BBC Sky One or something. I watched this on, and then you should have loads of crisps and that, and it's good to have a wind up radio.
And then you put your fingers in your ears and you go
and
la 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 la.
But you gotta wait. No, look, this is serious because this could happen.
Sorry, guys.
Then you gotta wait then for. I can't remember how long it is. Anyway, stick with me, boys.
I'm not the only fool.
I'll look after you when they.
No, fair enough. Thanks for the nuclear advice there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that was a great podcast. Go back.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for listening. At the minute, me, Ben, and Charlie were just doing our travelling trip just for a couple of days.
Try to spread a bit of love around.
We're meeting a lot of nice people and disputing some spiritual knowledge.
People need it, like, isn't it? The spiritual wisdom. I met some people that said they would listen as well, so hopefully you're listening, guys. It's a pleasure to meet you on the street. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone I met would listen to the podcast. But we're one more day in Exeter, and then we're travelling back then to Cardiff. And thank you very much, Charlie. Thanks, Ben. And then we'll continue with Shri Upanishad. I'd probably finish Mantra 1.
Yeah.
Next week. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai.
Jai. What's Jai mean?
Madhya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinam Madhya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi